So, all right, and then we have Shadow of the Sith is a book that's coming out. Now that one's coming out pretty soon, right?
I think it's end of June 27th, somewhere around there.
Okay. Yeah, so that one
June 28th.
that might be the one I'm the most excited about for like announced stuff that's not out yet.
Yeah.
Just because we're getting Luke in that post Return of the Jedi era where there's a lot of blank spaces to like kind of what was Luke doing. And we know there's like him kind of searching for Sith artifacts and all of that stuff that we got introduced to like the idea of like this Sith assassin in Rise of Skywalker. And so it seems like this book is going to be kind of breaching some of those topics, which for my personal Star Wars fandom, that's kind of right up my alley.
Yeah.
Is what I'm interested in.
And I really hope that they address a lot of the questions we've had for years now about the sequel trilogy, right? We it sounds like just looking at the excerpt, right, that we will get some obviously Luke is a big character in the book, Luke and Lando, and we'll get Luke on at his Jedi temple, right, or his Jedi Academy, whatever they call it. We'll it sounds like we'll get some Exegol in there and some explanations about how or why Palpatine was using Exegol, and Ochi of Bestoon will play into it. It sounds like we might get some backstory on Rey potentially. So I think there's a lot of really cool things this book could touch on. I think it's been far enough since the movies came out that they can actually go and address these things.
It does seem like some topics that they maybe wouldn't want covered in a book, because it does seem, especially in this kind of new era of canon books, they've really been all right. The exciting meat of the stories, we save that for the TV shows, and then we kind of give you guys these side stories. And that was kind of one of the cool things about High Republic, is that it was this whole new era that they didn't have to worry about touching certain characters, and they could just do whatever they wanted. With this book, they are touching main characters, Luke and Lando, and some of the main kind of storylines that drove the sequel trilogy. So I do wonder if maybe it's not going to get as deep into it as we think. They're just kind of showing us in the marketing, like, hey, look, we're doing this stuff. And then when you actually read the book, it's like, okay, they did all the cool stuff was in the excerpt. So I
hope they don't do that. I hope they don't.
I agree. I hope as well, but I'm kind of prepping myself for maybe it not being quite as groundbreaking as they might be letting us think. Did you read the full excerpt?
No, I did not read the full. I kind of skimmed the beginning a little bit. I intentionally, I kind of stopped reading excerpts a few years ago.
No. See, so Teresa never would read the excerpts.
Yeah.
And it frustrated me because we could never talk about them on the show. And so now that Teresa has moved on from Bookworms and I'm bringing on other people, I'm like, oh, now I can talk about excerpts.
Well, I'm happy.
And then you don't read the excerpts.
So it's actually not for spoiler reasons. It's because I used to read the excerpts, especially remember where they actually would include the excerpt at the end of the book of the previous book.
Yep.
And it would be months sometimes before you get the book again. And I remember a couple times, a long time ago, thinking, did I already read this book? And then oh wait, no, that was the excerpt. I would get confused. And so I was like, I don't need to read it. I'll be fine to wait. But it's not a spoiler thing. I don't mind discussing it. And that's why I kind of skimmed this excerpt a bit already. And so I've definitely it's definitely not it's definitely not something I haven't seen.
Right. So the excerpt has Luke. It's not really clear on if he's actually somewhere or if he's having a vision. It seems like they're implying he's actually at Exegol.
Yeah.
And he's having.
So it sounds like he disappeared. Tython disappears and somehow he ends up on Exegol.
Right.
And is he actually there? Is he doing like a force projection?
Yeah. So he's
style.
He's kind of fighting again. He ends up fighting against what essentially is like wraiths or ghosts who somehow can hold lightsabers. And, they have this whole little battle with him. And then at the end of it, this other character shows up with a blue lightsaber and a hood, and he's like, who is it? At first he thinks it might be Kenobi, but then it ends up being Anakin. Once again, these, I don't consider this stuff spoilers because it's been released on StarWars.com. But so Anakin shows up in this vision or whatever it is. So kind of a cool sequence, and
Yeah.
so the potential there, and like, what does that mean? You know, is he just having a vision where he gets to meet Anakin? It's definitely a different version of Anakin because he's still young. It sounds like he's got the scar.
Mhm.
Said his hair was like shoulder length, which I think
Yeah.
in my mind is longer than he's ever had it that we've seen.
Yeah, they maybe he's just trying to describe Revenge of the Sith Anakin, but
Would you consider it shoulder length in Revenge of the Sith?
kind of. It's
What is
not
it?
quite.
I
It's
saw
not
it more
quite.
as a bob.
It's more of a bob, yeah. But I think I don't know.
Maybe that's all it is. It's just
Yeah.
Revenge of the Sith version of Anakin, and I'm just not remembering how long his hair was. But
Well, I
So-
think no, I think you're remembering correctly. I think it just might be fudging the truth a little bit for a vision
you know, Luke's like, "Wow, Dad, your hair is so long."
for the simplicity of the description.
So yeah, but I'm excited. to
Anakin's
see-
hair was just above his neck, you know.
right. It was
Or his
easier to
shoulders.
describe.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, that excerpt, it really doesn't tell us a lot other than that Luke has this vision. So, or maybe he's actually there. But so yeah, I think that's going to be a cool book to get into.
I am very, very excited to read this book.
And then last,
We have an amazing summer of books. Like
if I can get caught up.
yeah. Well, I mean, we had Brotherhood, which I think we might be talking about next. We have Shadow of the Sith. We have the upcoming Qui-Gon Obi-Wan book. I'm blanking on the name. Yeah, it's gonna be good.
Right. So yeah, the next thing, and this one I had kind of forgotten, this already came out, but Brotherhood has already come out. This has been out since last week. Did it come out? When was it? May, early
yeah, I wanna
May?
say like like a week and a half ago, something like
Okay.
that. May 10th.
So I was thinking at first, because they had released an excerpt, and I was like, oh, we could talk about the excerpt. And then I realized it's already been out, and
Yeah.
surely William's already read it. And then I saw
have.
you were on another podcast, you had reviewed it. So you've absolutely read it. I have not.
No, I had no idea. I was just making up as I went along.
So yeah, right. So I've never done that for a book review. But so you got to review it. We're not going to talk spoilers on this show yet, so we'll probably do a review of that book eventually, but we won't get into the spoilers since you've already read it. But they did reveal in the excerpt that Ventress is in the book, and they had some kind of back and forth with Obi-Wan and Ventress in that excerpt. So that was kind of cool to see. It's definitely in that Clone Wars era, where you have Dooku and Ventress and Obi-Wan and Anakin. Once again, much more up your alley than mine. When this book was announced, I was kind of like, oh yay, another Anakin Obi-Wan story. You know, not that we haven't had a million of those already, but you know, I'm sure I'll enjoy it.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes personally, if I were to rank Star Wars books, it's Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan stories. That's my favorite because the Jude Watson books, the Jedi Apprentice books, were the first Star Wars books I ever read. So I will always love those. Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan, and then Anakin and Obi-Wan right after that. As far as like, you know,
I could totally get that because I love
the prequel
those,
books.
I love those Jude Watson books as well. You know, when they were coming out, and they were very, at the time, they were very groundbreaking because they hadn't told that era for those characters yet.
Yeah.
But now I feel like it's been told.
Yeah.
Even if you're counting, you're kind of a combination of legends and canon books and the Clone Wars, and you know, there's just, it's been covered.
Yeah.
And so that's where sometimes I'm like, okay, you know, I get why, you know, you put Obi-Wan and Anakin in a book, it's going to sell, right? They're the main characters more so than if they try to come up with like original characters or something like that. So I get why they keep making these books about the main characters, but for me, I was not as excited about this one just because I'll just go back and rewatch some Clone Wars episodes if I want more Anakin and Obi-Wan.
I will say, just to get you excited about the book, uh, novels, as you know, can really help you get into the minds of characters that you can't get in a television series. And Dave Filoni he's the master when it comes to Star Wars and knowing the characters, but there's only so much he can show on the screen. And I was very, very impressed with how Mike Chen's characterization of all of the characters, actually, Anakin and Obi-Wan. He probably has gotten to their head better than any other Star Wars author in a very long time.
Okay.
And so the way he understands their motivations and why they are the way they are, and kind of how he addresses that in the book is phenomenal. And it's probably one of the best Star Wars books I've read in a very long time.
All right.
So highly recommend it.
I'll take that as a biased review because you love those characters so much, but I also respect your opinion about books. So it does have me a little bit more excited.
Awesome.
All right. Well, anything else to say about that or any of the other book news before we jump into our kind of Celebration Anaheim preview?
Read Brotherhood. It's great. Not you, just in general.
In general. Okay.
I'm not trying to convince you. You already know.
I kind of have to read it, right?
Exactly.